Hello, this is Dr. Moore, and this is my video on what I'm calling weird pollution. By weird pollution, I'm referring to forms of pollution that might seem benign or even beneficial, but that actually have negative consequences for people and the environment. In this video, I will discuss light pollution, thermal pollution, noise pollution, sediment pollution, and nutrient pollution. We'll start with light pollution. The developed world is awash in artificial light. This light helps us move around safely at night, and it allows us to work and play after the sun has gone down. But all of this illumination has a dark side. For starters, it obscures from us the glory of our own universe. Have you ever seen the Milky Way? Many people haven't. I didn't see the Milky Way until I was in high school when I was on a family trip to the Grand Canyon, and I was angry that this beautiful thing was not visible to me in my home on the East Coast. Besides robbing us of the aesthetic pleasure of the night sky, light pollution disorients insects, bats, and birds. And it throws off the reproductive cycles of plants and animals like wallabies that count on darkness in order to trigger important events in their life cycle. And it kills baby turtles. Sea turtles evolved in a world in which the only nocturnal light was the twinkle of the moon on the ocean waves. And newly hatched sea turtles evolved to move toward the light, since that would lead them to the ocean. Nowadays, many baby sea turtles head instead toward the lights of our glitzy beachside resorts, decreasing the chances that these babies will ever make it to the ocean. Since we've done basically nothing to control our light pollution, there are a lot of easy things we can do to darken our skies. The first, of course, is to turn off lights we don't need, and to use motion sensors and timers so that the lights are only shining when they do us good. These actions not only prevent light pollution, but they would also save us energy. For the lights we do need, we can choose designs that direct 100% of their light to the ground, where it's actually useful to us. Our next form of weird pollution is thermal pollution. This is when human activities change the temperature regime of an environment, making it either hotter or colder than normal. One form of thermal pollution is the urban heat island. The urban heat island refers to the fact that urban centers can be several degrees hotter than the surrounding rural areas. This occurs for three main reasons. First, the concrete and asphalt that we use to build our cities are great at absorbing solar energy and then re-radiating it back into the air as heat. Second, there's more waste heat in a city. Waste heat refers to the heat produced by our machines, whether that be our cars or our industrial equipment or our air conditioners. Third, there are fewer plants in the city, which means there is less transpiration. Transpiration is the evaporation of water from plants. And just as the evaporation of sweat from our bodies cools us down, the evaporation of water from trees and other plants cools down the environment. Together, these influences increase the temperature of our cities by several degrees. This is problematic for human health because it increases the chance of death due to heat-related causes, particularly in the summer months. When it rains, the urban heat island can contribute to the increased temperature of aquatic ecosystems, as rainwater absorbs the heat from the pavement as it runs off toward the streams. Deforestation can also lead to increased stream temperatures because more sunlight reaches the stream in the absence of shade from trees. Discharge of heated water from power plants and other industrial facilities also increases the temperature of our lakes and streams. Increased water temperatures harm wildlife because warm water holds less oxygen than cold water. If water temperatures get too warm, oxygen levels drop too low, and organisms can asphyxiate and die due to the lack of oxygen. So far, my examples of thermal pollution have focused on things that are warmer than they should be, but there is cold water pollution too. The best example of cold water pollution can be seen at a dam, which creates a reservoir in a river. The water at the bottom of the reservoir is much colder than the temperature of the river would have been without the dam. And when that cold reservoir water is released downstream, it can fall below the ecological tolerance of the organisms living here. Fish, in particular, can suffer something called thermal shock, which happens when they are exposed to a sudden rapid decrease in temperature, and thermal shock can kill fish. Our next weird pollutant is noise pollution. The machines we use to move around, extract resources, build stuff, and keep ourselves comfortable all emit noise. And all of this noise affects our health. Exposure to noise causes hearing loss, of course, but also high blood pressure and stress, and it disturbs our sleep. Noise affects ecosystems too. Noise pollution reduces the hunting success of predators that rely on acoustic cues to find their prey. Long-eared owls struggle to find prey if they are within 120 meters of a road. Now, that might not seem so bad, but when you think of it, a substantial fraction of our landscape is within 120 meters of a road. Like, there might not be any place within Rock Creek Park that isn't within 120 meters of a road. Noise pollution also interferes with animal communication. Whales use songs to communicate with other whales hundreds of miles away. But the ocean has become so loud with ship engines, military sonar, and explosions related to the drilling for oil and gas that the calling between whales has all but stopped in vast parts of the ocean. Finally, noise pollution can cause some organisms to simply avoid noisy areas. Some researchers at Boise State University demonstrated this by setting up speakers along a half-kilometer stretch in the forest and playing road noise through those speakers. This caused a 30% drop in the bird population of this area. Next up in the weird pollution parade is sediment pollution. Sediment pollution is pollution by sediments, or teeny tiny pieces of rock that we call sand, silt, or clay, depending on their size. Suspended in the air, sediments are a form of particulate matter. Particulate matter aggravates asthma and can cause cardiovascular disease. Sediments in the water are also a problem. Sediments increase turbidity, or murkiness, of the water. Sediments in water block light from reaching aquatic producers. That means there's less oxygen and less food for everything else in that ecosystem. Sediments also reduce the predation success of visual hunters in aquatic ecosystems. And sediments bury benthic organisms that live at the bottom of the water body. Settled sedimentation can also just change the character of the benthic habitat, changing it from rocks and pebbles to muck. Sediments are also an indicator that other pollutants are likely to be present since it suggests that water entered the waterway without being filtered by soil or wetlands first. Those other pollutants could include pesticides, heavy metals, animal wastes, and bacteria. Our final pollutant in the weird pollution roundup is nutrients. Now, you might think an influx of nutrients would be good for a body of water, but you would be wrong. Nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus from fertilizers, manure, and sewage, initiate a chain of events that leads to low levels of dissolved oxygen in the water, otherwise known as hypoxia. Under hypoxic conditions, organisms die due to asphyxiation. In other words, they die because they don't get the oxygen they need to perform cellular respiration. And the process that connects high nutrient levels to low dissolved oxygen levels is called eutrophication. And that concludes my video on weird pollution.